Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're jumping into something really exciting, actually. Something that hits right at the heart of a problem I know loads of creators face.
Oh, yeah. What are we diving into?
Well, think about anyone building a world,
hmm
a game master, an indie dev, maybe just a passionate RPG player. You've got the lore, the maps, the characters all mapped out.
Right. Months, maybe years of work.
Exactly. But then, the music. It's either like generic stock stuff that doesn't quite fit, or worse.
Silence. Yeah. That awkward silence during a supposedly epic moment kills the mood instantly.
Totally. So the source we're analyzing today is all about fixing that. It's the course description for fantasy world-building orchestration in Cubase. D&D game ready.
Okay, interesting title. Cubase focus. Fantasy specific. D&D ready. Sounds targeted.
It is. And what grabbed me right away was how upfront they are about that core problem. They literally say you've poured months into your world, but you're, quote, stuck with stock music that doesn't fit the tone. Or worse, silent gaps.
Huh. Calling it out directly. I like that. And those silent gaps. Yeah, that's just poison for immersion, isn't it? But what's the promise, then? How do they fix it?
That's the hook. The transformation they promise is going from relying on those, almost right tracks to actually composing custom exploration, town, and combat themes in just 12 weeks.
12 weeks. Okay, that's a bold time frame. And composing custom themes. That's the dream for world builders, surely.
And here's the key thing for our listeners, right? People who already know their way around Cubase, they get music theory, but maybe their tracks just don't sound, professional.
Yeah, that final polish, getting it to sound like it belongs in a real game, not just a hobby project. That's the hard part.
Precisely. So our mission today is to really unpack how this course is structured module by module to show exactly how it claims to bridge that gap, how it gets you from competent to, well, game-ready composer.
All right, let's dig in. So to really get the solution, we need to understand the problem they're solving. The description talks about the problem amplification rate.
Yeah, and it really nails why the usual methods just don't work for this specific need, like stock tracks. They're close, maybe?
Close-ish. You need music for your gritty desert city, like you said, but all you can find sounds like a jolly medieval fair.
Exactly. The quality might be fine technically, but it's just wrong for your world. Breaks the spell immediately.
And then there's the YouTube rabbit hole. You find scattered tips, maybe a cool VST trick here, a chord progression there.
But there's no system for RPG scoring, as they put it. It's just fragments. You can't build a consistent, bespoke soundtrack for an entire world from random YouTube videos.
No repeatable process, so that unique sound you imagine for your world, it just gets lost. You can't reliably translate the vision into actual music.
Which is like the ultimate frustration. You know what it should sound like, but you can't make Cubase do it consistently. That's the roadblock this course seems designed to smash through.
So how do they propose to do that? What's the teaching methodology?
They call it the immersion learning revelation. And the analogy they use is learning a language.
Okay. How does that apply?
Well, you don't get fluent by just memorizing vocabulary lists, right? You learn fastest when you're immersed, actually using the language.
Right, dropped into real conversations. Makes sense.
So this course aims for systematic 12-week immersion. It puts you in the role of a composer who's actively scoring their own RPG world right from the start. You learn the techniques while building your exploration, town, and combat themes.
Ah, okay. So it's not just theory. It's immediate practical application on your own project. You're living as a composer inside your own RPG. That's a powerful idea.
Yeah. Everything you learn is instantly relevant. You're not just learning orchestration principles in a vacuum. You're applying them to your forest, your city, and building a portfolio as you go.
That makes a lot of sense for retention. And it keeps you motivated working on something personal. Now, they also mentioned something called the Tesla methodology differentiator.
Sounds ambitious.
It does. But I think it's meant to signal really high standards, like serious quality control. The goal, they state, is to manufacture experts, not dabblers. Manufacture experts. Wow. Okay, so that implies a very structured, maybe even rigorous process, not just casual learning.
Exactly what someone needs if they want to get past that hobbyist level. They talk about an 8-station quality control system.
Right. Now, they don't explicitly list the stations, but you can kind of infer what they must be checking for, can't you? It's not just, does it sound nice?
No way. It's got to be things like, is the orchestration realistic? Does it sound like real instruments?
Does it loop seamlessly? That's huge for game audio.
Is the mix balanced? Does it leave space for dialogue and sound effects? Is it loud enough but not too loud, meeting industry standards?
And crucially, is it technically ready for implementation, like exported correctly for game engines or middleware?
Yeah, so those 8 stations are like checkpoints, ensuring the final output isn't just music, but a functional, professional game asset. It's deliberate, high-level training focused on getting repeatable results.
That systematic approach is probably key for people struggling to get that consistent quality. And they back this up with resources, right? The toolkit advantage.
Oh yeah, they list 204/7 video training, audio content, text guides, Cubase templates, scoring blueprints, a lot of support material.
Standard stuff for a good course, but helpful.
But then there's the standout, the Personal AI Composition Coach, GPT.
Okay, that's very current. An AI coach. How does that work? Is it writing the music for you? Because that would be less helpful for learning.
No, that's not the idea from what I gather. It's positioned more as a, super smart technical assistant available instantly.
Ah, okay. So not a creative director telling you what notes to write, but more for checking your work.
Exactly. Think about it. You're stuck on, say, how to voice a brass chord correctly, or maybe you've got some clashing frequencies in your mix, or your string articulations sound robotic.
Right. Things that normally you'd have to wait hours, maybe days for a human tutor to look at.
Yeah. But this AI coach can give you instant feedback on those technical points. Try adjusting this EQ here, or this articulation might work better, or common practice for this voicing is. It helps you get past those roadblocks immediately.
That's actually potentially huge for workflow. That instant feedback loop keeps you in the creative zone, doesn't it? Instead of getting stuck and frustrated waiting for help.
Totally. It supports that whole immersion idea. You hit a snag, get quick technical guidance, fix it, and keep composing. It speeds up the learning cycle massively.
Okay, I'm starting to see how the system is designed. So let's get into the actual modules. Where does it start? Modules 1 to 3 are the foundation.
Yeah, laying the groundwork. Module 1 is Introduction to Fantasy Music for RPGs. And the big focus here is shifting your mindset.
How so? Shifting from what to what?
From just being a music composer to thinking like a scorer for interactive media. They're really different disciplines.
Absolutely. Film scoring is linear, right? You compose to picture, hit specific timings, game scoring.
Yeah.
It's a whole different beast.
It has to be dynamic. It has to support gameplay without getting in the way. It often needs to loop for ages. It's background, but crucial background.
So this module is about understanding that role, defining what game-ready audio actually means.
Exactly. What does it mean for audio to be functional in a game? Things like dynamic range, leaving room for other sounds, and making sure it's structured for looping and transitions. It's the practical side.
And understanding the emotional job it needs to do, like the example they give, how an exploration theme has to enhance immersion, support the story, signal safety or danger, subtly.
Right. It's not just pretty music, it's functional narrative music. Then Module 2 is Cubase Fundamentals for Composers.
Okay, but you said our audience probably knows Cubase already?
They do, but this isn't how to open Cubase. This is Cubase specifically for orchestral and cinematic scoring, taking that existing knowledge and refining it for a heavy-duty professional workflow.
Ah, okay. Because scoring with like 100 tracks of virtual instruments is way different than recording a 4-piece band.
Totally different. So this module gets into the nitty-gritty of professional efficiency. Things like setting up detailed orchestral templates so you're not starting from zero every time.
Smart. Saves hours. What else?
Really precise track organization, naming conventions, stuff that sounds boring but is absolutely vital when you're juggling huge sessions or collaborating.
Oh, definitely. Try finding that one specific cello articulation track in a mess of 150 unnamed tracks. Nightmare.
Exactly. And using markers and tempo tracks effectively, especially for music that might need to change tempo or intensity dynamically. It's about streamlining the whole process.
It's the difference between a smooth professional session and just fighting the software all day. That organization is key.
And then Module 3, the language of fantasy orchestration. This is where you get into the actual sounds.
Palette mastery, they call it. Understanding that unique fantasy soundscape.
Yeah, it's not just use strings. It's understanding the roles. What are the strings doing? Melody, harmony, rhythmic pulse. What about the brass? Noble fanfares, ominous drones.
Assigning specific jobs to each section. Strings, brass, woodwinds, percussion. The core families.
But also, crucially, the color instruments. Harps, choirs, maybe ethnic percussion or flutes.
Ah, the instruments that instantly add that specific fantasy flavor. A harp just screams high elves or magic, doesn't it?
Right. Or maybe using a specific kind of flute sound pegs it to a certain region in your world map. It's about using these colors intentionally.
So you learn how to build distinct soundscapes, making a magical forest sound different from a dwarven mine using instrumentation and texture, not just different notes, but a different sonic world.
Exactly.
Mm.
Building that unique sonic identity for your setting. Okay, that foundation seems solid. Then modules 4 to 6 dive into crafting the actual music.
Yeah, this looks like the creative core. Module 4 is theme development and motifs, getting into the memorable stuff.
Right. How do you actually write those tunes that stick in your head? The melodies that scream adventure or mystery for your specific world.
And they focus on something called evolutionary motifs, which sounds really important for games.
What does that mean exactly? Evolutionary.
Well, it means creating small musical ideas motifs that aren't static. They can change and adapt depending on what's happening in the game.
Ah, okay. So like you have a main theme for a town.
Right, maybe play gently on a flute when things are calm. But if combat breaks out in the town square, that same motif might get blasted out by the trumpets with aggressive percussion underneath. The core idea is recognizable, but the mood completely shifts.
Gotcha. So the music feels alive and responsive, not just like a looping CD track. That avoids listener fatigue over long sessions, too.
Definitely. And they get technical here, talking about using specific intervals and harmonies to get that fantasy feel, and the practical step of sketching motifs on piano before you spend hours orchestrating. Work smart, not just hard.
Good advice. That leads into Module 5, harmony and atmosphere, moving beyond basic chords.
Yeah, this is where you get that truly evocative fantasy sound. They dive into modal scales, Dorian, Lydian, Mixolydian.
Modes. Okay, most musicians know what they are, but using them effectively to create specific moods, that's the trick.
Exactly. Knowing why Lydian sounds bright and magical, perfect for that floating city, or why Dorian feels ancient and slightly melancholic, great for old ruins or a gritty quest. Choosing the harmonic color deliberately.
Makes sense. And then using atmospheric tools, layering textures, suspensions, pedal tones.
Right. Those long, sustained notes underneath everything, pedal tones, create that sense of space and stillness you need for exploration music, or using suspensions to create gentle tension and release. It's harmonic world building.
And all ties into pacing, matching the music's energy to the player's exploration.
Hmm.
Slow, patient, atmospheric.
Not rushing the player, letting the music breathe and support the experience. Then Module 6 tackles rhythm, which is surprisingly tricky for the style. Rhythm, texture, and momentum.
Why tricky?
Because exploration music needs some sense of movement, some momentum, but it absolutely cannot be distracting. It can't overpower the player's focus on the game or the DM.
Ah, right. Too much rhythmic activity and it just becomes annoying noise.
Precisely. So they teach techniques for subtle drive, using things like rhythmic ostinatos, those quiet, repeating patterns, often in lower instruments, to keep things moving gently.
And using percussion, not for big hits, but for texture. Layers of subtle clicks, shakers, light drums.
Exactly. Building momentum without grabbing all the attention.
Mhm.
And this directly connects to the big challenge, creating seamless loops. They introduced the loop challenge here.
Yeah, nothing breaks immersion faster than a badly looping track with an obvious seam or click.
So this module starts teaching how to structure rhythms and textures so they can loop smoothly, creating ebb and flow within the loop itself so it doesn't feel static, even after minutes of play. Designing it to sustain long sessions without driving players crazy.
Okay, so we've got the ideas, the harmony, the rhythm. Now, how do we make it sound expensive? Module 7 and 9 seem to be about getting that pro polish.
This is absolutely the make or break section for most people trying to level up. Module 7, building orchestral layers in Cubase. This is the deep dive into the actual process of orchestration in the DW.
Taking that piano sketch and turning it into a full, rich orchestral sound. That sounds complex.
It is. They cover layering, how to make sure your different instrument sections work together, how the cello support the violins, how the woodwinds add color without clashing, achieving that rich, full sound.
But it's not just about adding layers, is it? It's making it sound human.
Exactly. That's the focus on expression and dynamics, managing all those MIDI CC messages, volume, vibrato, expression, to make the virtual instruments phrase like real players. It's those tiny swells and variations that make it sound cinematic.
And the technical side of that articulation management, getting the difference between legato, staccato, pizzicato right, that's critical for realism.
Hugely critical. If every note sounds the same, it's instantly robotic. So managing those different playing styles, often using key switches in Cubase, is essential, which leads perfectly into Module 8.
What is sound libraries and virtual instruments, VSTs, dealing with the tools themselves.
Right. How to actually get realism and depth from your virtual orchestra libraries, but also tackling the practical nightmare, balancing realism with CPU load.
Ah, yes. You load up that amazing, super detailed string library, and suddenly Cubase grinds to a halt.
Been there. So this module gives practical tips for managing that trade-off in Cubase, getting the best sound possible without melting your computer.
And they highlight using expression maps for workflow speed. What are expression maps, basically? Why are they such a big deal?
Okay, so expression maps in Cubase are like programmable shortcuts for articulations. Instead of manually selecting staccato, then drawing in CC data, then selecting legato, you can map all those commands to single keys or symbols in your score editor.
Ah, so it makes switching between different playing styles much faster and more intuitive.
Massively faster. It lets you perform the articulations almost like playing an instrument, rather than tediously programming every little change. It's a pro workflow technique that saves hours and makes realistic phrasing much easier to achieve.
Gotcha. Okay, that sounds invaluable. So you've got realistic instruments playing expressively. The Module 9 is the final step, mixing and balancing the fantasy orchestra.
The final polish, this is where so many otherwise good compositions fall down the mix, sounds muddy or flat.
So what do they cover? EQ, reverb.
Yeah, but strategically. EQ for clarity, making sure each instrument has its own space in the frequency spectrum so they don't fight each other. Like assigning seats in the orchestra pit, but with frequencies.
Nice analogy. And reverb for creating that sense of space and depth.
Right, but using it carefully, not just drowning everything in one huge reverb, but maybe using different reverbs to play sections closer or further away, creating a believable acoustic space.
And crucially for games, balancing foreground and background elements.
Yes, making sure the main melody sits clearly on top, while the atmospheric pads or rhythmic elements stay further back, supporting but not competing. Especially important so the music doesn't clash with dialogue or critical sound effects.
And finally, hitting the right loudness standards, making sure it sounds professional and competes with other game audio.
Exactly. Understanding dynamic range, target loudness levels, getting that final mix technically correct and polished so it sounds like it belongs.
Okay, wow. So by the end of Module 9, you should have a track that sounds professionally composed, orchestrated, and mixed. But it's still just a stereo file, right? How does it get into a game?
That's modules 10 and 11. Integration and actual game readiness. This is the stuff that often gets left out of pure composition courses.
Module 10, creating seamless loops for gameplay. We touched on looping earlier, but this is the deep dive.
This is the essential technical skill, making that loop absolutely perfect. It covers structuring the beginning and end so they connect musically and rhythmically without any glitch.
And dealing with technical issues like reverb tails. So the reverb from the end of the loop doesn't awkwardly cut off or build up.
Exactly. Using Cubase techniques to manage crossfades and tails so the transition is genuinely imperceptible to the player. That's the gold standard.
And then the crucial step, exporting from middleware. FMOD, WeWise, Unity. Why is this so important?
Because that's how music actually gets implemented dynamically in most games. Middleware like FMOD or WeWise is the software that game developers use to control the audio. Your music needs to be exported in a format these tools understand, often as stems or with specific markers, so they can trigger transitions, layer elements, or change intensity based on gameplay.
So knowing how to export from middleware basically makes your music usable by a game development team.
Absolutely. It's a non-negotiable skill if you want to work professionally in game audio, or even just implement your own music effectively in engines like Unity or Unreal. This module provides that critical link.
Huge value add there. Then Module 11, integrating music with game worlds. This sounds like taking it even further.
Yeah, moving beyond just static loops into dynamic storytelling with music, thinking about the bigger picture.
Like connecting the music to the lore. Making the dwarven mind sound different from the elven forest, using specific musical motifs or instrumentation.
Exactly. Adapting your core themes for different regions, factions, or even moods within the game, making the music feel deeply integrated with the world itself.
And it covers transition techniques, like going from exploration music to sudden combat.
Right. That's often the most noticeable musical moment for a player. How do you make that transition smooth but impactful, using risers, percussion hits, sudden harmonic shifts to ramp up the tension instantly?
And finally, it touches on the collaboration mindset, working with designers or DMs.
Yeah, understanding that game composition is often a service role. You're helping realize someone else's vision, so communication, flexibility, and understanding their needs are key. It's not just about writing cool music in isolation.
Okay, that whole sequence from Module 7 to 11 feels like the bridge from good music to professional, usable game audio.
Absolutely. It covers the entire technical and practical pipeline, which leads us to the grand finale, Module 12.
Final project, your exploration theme, putting it all together.
Yep. Synthesis and application. You take everything you've learned over the 11 weeks and actually compose, orchestrate, mix, and prepare for looping a complete exploration theme for your own world.
So you walk away with a tangible result, a portfolio piece, or something you can actually use in your D&D game or indie project immediately.
Exactly. And they mentioned community feedback and peer review sessions here too, which is great for getting fresh ears on your work and refining it.
That whole structure feels really comprehensive.
Yeah.
And they emphasize the learning approach too, the multimodal advantage.
Right, catering to different learning styles. You can watch the videos, listen to examples, actually do the assignments in Cubase, or read the detailed guides. Something for everyone.
Which, combined with that AI coach for instant help, sounds like a pretty robust support system to get you through something this complex.
It seems designed to minimize the chance of getting stuck or overwhelmed. Now let's talk value, because they make a point about this.
Yeah, the value proposition. They compare the course cost to the alternatives, right? Hiring a composer.
Which can be, what, $500 to $3,000 for one custom track? Easily?
Or buying stock music libraries, which still might not fit perfectly and can cost $200 plus.
Right. And then they position this entire 12-week system designed to give you the skills to make unlimited custom tracks.
At just $97 for the founding members.
$97. For that entire workflow, from idea to game-ready implementation,
Yeah.
Honestly, that's kind of insane value, isn't it?
It really is. It's an investment in a skill set that pays for itself almost immediately if you were considering hiring someone or buying lots of stock music.
And the social proof they include seems to back up the need for this kind of system. People saying they were stuck with random tutorials until this structured approach clicked.
Yeah, or the best compliment, players being blown away,
Yeah.
saying, you made this about the student's music. That's a transformation right there.
Plus, they mentioned bonuses for founders, like Cubase templates and cheat sheets designed to speed things up even more, getting you past setup straight into creating.
Okay, so summing it all up,
Mm-hmm.
it feels like a really complete journey.
It really does. From understanding the why, the role of music in games, through mastering the how in Cubase, learning the specific language of fantasy orchestration, getting that professional polish in the mix, and crucially, learning how to make it technically ready for actual game implementation with looping and middleware prep.
It's like an assembly line for creating bespoke game scores, taking you from maybe a talented hobbyist who's frustrated to someone who can confidently and repeatedly produce professional, functional music for their world.
And that final goal, they state, it resonates, doesn't it? In 12 weeks, be the DM or dev who doesn't just tell a story,
Yeah.
but scores it.
Yeah, powerful stuff. Which brings us to our final thought for everyone listening. Think about the truly iconic RPGs, the worlds that feel incredibly immersive. Hyrule, The Witcher, Skyrim.
Their custom scores are a huge part of that immersion, aren't they? Instantly recognizable, perfectly setting the mood.
Absolutely. So the question to ponder is, what unique emotional depth, what specific feeling is currently missing from your painstakingly crafted world? Simply because the music isn't quite there yet. Because you haven't mastered this systemic approach to game-ready composition.
It's a great question. If this deep dive has resonated and you feel ready to finally start scoring your own worlds properly,
Then you'll want to check out the course details and get on the wait list for fantasy world-building orchestration in Cubase over at schoolonx.com.
and remember, they mentioned that first founding members cohort is limited to ensure personal attention, and there's a guarantee too. So if you're serious, probably best to check it out sooner rather than later.
Definitely worth exploring if you want to stop relying on generic tracks and start scoring your own adventures.